Good evening and welcome. We are all for Women's Football. This is Lower League Lingo, and we are very much looking forward to talking to you about Tier 5, and it'll all happen just on the other side of this. Hello, good evening, welcome. We are back. Apologies for yesterday, but there was just the two of us left after some casualties of war in the war on sleeping for children. And as a result of that, it made life just a little bit difficult, especially for Tier 5. It's a little bit niche. So therefore, we thought we'd wait. And plus, we've missed the face of the man just below me, Mr. John Foster. How the devil are you?
There we go. I remembered to do the microphone this time. Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a while. I can't remember the last one that I did, but with work and stuff and games, midweek games. It's been a bit tough to get on, but yes, really glad to be back and looking forward to it.
It feels like it's been a while. Absolutely, it hasn't been a while for the man just to my left, and that is, of course, the man with the most amazing tash on the panel. Also, apparently being called Wallace at the moment. The man of cheesy jokes. It's Gareth. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. November, 10 days left of this, so maybe just the one more, show, and then it'll be gone. No, it's all good. Glad to be here after a false start yesterday. But yeah, looking forward to chatting about Tier 5. It's been a while.
It certainly has, and with that, we will go straight into it, and it will be the Northwest that we are going to look at. Look at that, just flying at you. It's all 3D on this show. And here we are with our 12 teams in the Northwest Regional League. And plenty going on in here, Gareth. Fylde absolutely nailing it at the top alongside Mancunian Unity. It looks like 1 from 2 as it stands there. We're pretty much at the halfway mark. Fleetwood Town Wrens, probably even Curzon Ashton, not looking too great for them. But what are you making of this league so far?
Well, I think some teams are over the halfway mark. You look at West Didsbury and Darwin and Curzon; they are on 12 games played, so they're over the halfway mark in the middle of November. So, definitely starting to take shape. I think we are looking at probably 1 from 2 with Fylde and Unity there at the top. Both of them have had good results. Both of them are sorry, I don't know. I was looking at results rather than fixtures. Both of them actually in FA Cup action this weekend, aren't they, Mr. John Foster? Fylde played Kidderminster Harriers in the FA Cup at the weekend, and Unity played Durham Cestrius. So both sides coming up against Tier 4 opposition. Both of them at home. So maybe there is a chance for a long-awaited cup set this year. John will be hoping not. But hey, let's see. Yeah, I think they're the two sides that have been setting the pace and have been kind of grinding out and winning games. So I suspect it'll be one of them too. You look at Unity currently in second. That could be a bit of a false position with them having played the game more than Fylde. If Fylde win that game, they are 5 points clear, which feels like it's tricky to overhaul given that they've only dropped 2 points all season. But as we know, this year, points per game is going to be important. With Unity currently on 2.36 points per game, you imagine that would have them sort of up there, whether they're in them top 2 or not for the country. But both of those sides will be absolutely looking to get as many points on the board as they possibly can. And if you are going to finish second, you want it to be a close run thing. So you got those points. The relegation battle, it seems to be particularly, you imagine for Curzon and Fleetwood to be, if not done, difficult to kind of see a way back for. We need to pick up some points and fast. Both of those sides with their upcoming fixtures. Curzon are playing Bolton this weekend, and Fleetwood host FC United. So, you think it'd be a tough ask to get a win there. Can they cause an upset and come away with a point? Who knows? Curzon's only win this season coming against Fleetwood, so they have only taken points off each other, have not taken points off anybody else in the league. So you would imagine that it's looking like it might be curtains for those two sides. But we do have a tasty scrap for the 10th place position. See, this league has 3 sides go down due to having the North, South, and Central in Tier 6. Bolton currently occupying that place with the worse off goal difference, but there is a long way to go. All of those sides, Bolton, Bury, Crewe, Tranmere to an extent as well, have shown that they can win games. You imagine Darwin up will be probably safe. Kind of Darwin up to Bolton, kind of looking for that best of the rest. Can they kind of show some progression? West Didsbury and FC United last season in relegation scraps. Bolton having come up with some of their off the pitch issues recently that saw a number of players leave. So all 3 of those sides will be looking to really push on. Darwin had a number of players leave over the summer, and a change of management as well. They'll be looking to kind of push on and see if they can cement themselves as a kind of serious outside contender in a dark horse. And hey, who knows? If one of those sides puts together a serious run of form and a couple of them can take some points off Fylde and Unity, it could blow the title race wide open. There is still 33 points to play for many of them, if not just the 30. So there is still to play for, but you do suspect that the league is starting to fragment into those 4 kind of sections. Just looking ahead to the weekend, like I mentioned, Fylde host Kidderminster and Unity host Durham in the FA Cup. Then you've got Bolton hosting Curzon, Bury hosting Crewe, which is a big game, Fleetwood hosting FC United, Bolton, West Didsbury, and Tranmere, Darwin. So some big 6-pointers there, particularly Bury and Crewe. One of them sides does have the chance to move themselves 7 points clear of relegation, which you imagine would be more or less one hand on safety. So I suspect some of those sides, a couple of wins, if one of them's over Bolton especially, that could be that. You imagine Bolton need to chip away at that gap this weekend, then come away from the weekend 3 points or a point clear of safety, closer to safety, then it'll be looking strong for them for the second half of the season. But it feels crazy to me to 20th of November and we're halfway through the season.
It is always strange. I think we find that quite often with the regional leagues, to be fair. They set them up so that obviously the games are going to be meant to be finished for sort of March time, really. And it's never quite how it ends up. I'm sure there'll be some casualties for fixtures coming up very soon over the course of the next couple of months. But yes, it's always a little bit weird when you get to this point, as you say, oh my God, what's happened here? We're halfway through the season already. What will I do for fun? But the answer is, it will still be going on. That's absolutely for sure. Right, we're going to take a quick look. As you can see, there is no Stu with us this evening. So we are going to quickly pop over to the southern region of the regional leagues, and a very interesting one in the southern region as it stands, because when you look at this one, you can see that Wycombe are top of the table, and what's amazing for them is that they're on the same amount of points as Beaconsfield, having played 3 games fewer. And so as a result of that, they are in absolutely the box seat in terms of looking for that promotion spot. And they are really looking very, very good for it at the moment. No draws, no losses. Beaconsfield still working hard though. They've just come off the back of a 3-1 win against Shoalin, so that's quite interesting for them. Southampton women also working hard up the top there, along with AFC Portchester. And you would argue even Winchester City Flyers and Fleet Town definitely looking quite good, but don't discount Reading, stuck there in the middle, who've only played 4 games themselves. Even Oxford City have really only played 5. So there's a lot, I think, looking at this league that will be yet to be decided for sure. They're, again, a bit strange. Some of them on 4, some of them on 8. And it's very, very weird when you start ending up having this level of a discrepancy in the amount of games played. But we are certainly looking at some sides here that are doing, I think, quite well. Badshot Lee, on the other hand, though, not looking so good. We've had this discussion about them before, but as you can see, both on the 1 point, just a draw each. And it's very much all about who can maintain the best goal difference at the moment, and that is Woodley United. But they've played 4 games fewer than Badshot Lee. So bearing in mind they had a recent 6-0 battering at the hands of Beaconsfield Town, there is just as much chance, I think, of Woodley getting dropped down as well. So be very interesting to see what's going on there. Any thoughts from either of you two based on just looking at this?
I think just the goal difference as well for Wycombe Wanderers. You know, not only are they smashing the wins, of actually winning comfortably, looking at that as well. Reading FC Community Trust obviously got that game in hand. So you look at points per game, you know, they're not a million miles away if they obviously win theirs, but it's still early doors. And if you have a look at this league, much like the Midlands, you know, they're only like 4 or 5 games in some of these teams, unlike the North, who are halfway through the season. So I don't know why that is. And there's only 11 teams in this league, much like one of the Midland leagues as well. So yes, they will be playing fewer games. I understand that, but yeah, just looking at the differences between the North and the South already, it's quite recognisable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think massively so. And looking ahead to matches coming up for these guys or girls, as the case might be there, we have got this weekend, Shoalin will be at home to Badshot Lee. So that's a big game right down there at the bottom. Southampton women against Fleet Town, which again is quite instrumental really in trying to see if they're going to get this divide and start leaving some of the runners and riders behind. Winchester City will be facing Reading. So again, very tight. Woodley will be facing Oxford City. That's down near the bottom as well. And Wycombe will be facing AFC Portchester and hoping that they can extend their lead. Well, I mean, I say that, it actually says they're doing that on the 23rd. That's the postponed one. They'll be playing Woodley United. So RIP Woodley United potentially on that one, because that Woodley one against Oxford has been postponed. It's really weird. They've got these dates and then they just postpone them all. They're getting themselves into a fixture nightmare in this league, and they might want to sort it out. Just saying. So there we go. But that is the Southern League. That's why I don't like looking at it on my phone. So won't do that with the next one, I don't think. Stick out there on my computer screen where my eyes don't have to strain quite so much. Right, Mr. Foster, it is a pleasure, as I said, to have you here. Let's throw you in for a little conversation on the Midlands. And I do hope you have been keeping your BDI on what's been going on, because there have been a few things happening. And as we see so often, not very many teams. It's very strange when we go to the East Midlands and the West Midlands, because you seem to end up with the fewest amounts of sides every single year. And it's happening again. But this was a interesting league last season. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening here. Chesterfield looking very good for the title. What? So you remember?
We go again. Yeah, it's been a while since we spoke about this. I think last time I did speak about this league, Lincoln City was in this league, played 0 games, so obviously had 0 points, and then literally a few days later, it was announced that that team had folded. I believe that's the correct terminology. I'm not too sure, but either way, they're not in this league anymore. And then, yeah, Chesterfield are at the top, played 7, got a couple of games in hand as well on 16 points. Most of the teams just played 2 or 3 games last time we spoke. So obviously a lot of those have now shot up to 6, 7, 8, or 9. And if you just remember who are the newly promoted teams here as well, we've got Gainsborough Trinity, Loughborough Foxes Vixens, and Wellingborough Town. So if we just go into a little bit of detail just on how those are getting on, so I can scatter it around the league a little bit. So Gainsborough won their first 2 games, which we spoke about a few weeks ago on this show, winning Rotherham and Anston Nomads. But they have only picked up 1 other win since then. So when you look at it, that was against Wellingborough Town as well. So started off really good, but then kind of just leveled out, I guess, to where we probably expect them to be a newly promoted side. They are flying in the County Cup as well, winning both of their games 8-0. So quality performance for them in the cups, and you'll find that a lot in this league from what I've seen as well. Loughborough Foxes Vixens is the most successful team that's been promoted this season so far. 13 points out of 6 matches, sitting third, with a game in hand over Chesterfield as well. Their biggest league win was 9-1 over SDR Workshop, and they've got a whopping 22 goal difference as well. Wellingborough Town currently bottom of the league, but they have had a massive success in both their cup runs so far, winning 4-1 against Colville Town Ravens, 2-1 against Grimsby Town Academy, and 21-0 against Cornby Town Ladies Reserves. So some massive wins there. Just a few other points of note. So Gainsborough Trinity was started off the season really well, was on 6 points, obviously slipping a little bit there. Rotherham was 7th with only 1 draw in 2 games at the start of the season. They've really worked their way up now to 2nd. Admittedly, they played a lot more games, but at least they're actually winning those games. SJL Workshop has got one of the biggest declines since the start of the season, since the last time we spoke anyway, going from 4th to 8th. So there has been quite a lot of jiggling about. I think that's probably down to the amount of games some teams have played compared to others. And finally, just a word on last year's runners-up, Chesterfield. Obviously, you can see where they're sitting at the moment, 16 points after 7 games. But just a bit of information, they've only lost 1 game all season in League and Cup. And funnily enough, that was to Loughborough Foxes Vixens, where they lost 6-0 in the league. So if you want to try and look at, who's going to win this league, you got Loughborough just 1 game behind. If they win that, they're on equal points. But when they played each other, Loughborough looks like they smashed it 6-0. So it's going to be very tight to call. But good to see everyone doing well in some capacity. If it's not in the league, they're having a good cup run. And also good to see that the 3 newly promoted teams kind of holding the road apart from Wellingborough. But at least they're having a good cup run, so they can take some kind of positivity away from this season so far.
I agree. Very good. And nice to sit in. I used to live in Chesterfield. So really nice to see Chesterfield doing well in the league just there. So good job them. Right. Let's drop that one out of there and let's pop instead over to London and the Southeast. And I'll tell you something, guys. It is all kicking off over here. Look at this for a league table. It was unreal. And it's, like I said, all going absolutely mad over there at the moment. So down at the bottom, we've got Ipswich United sitting there on -2 points. They're one of those teams that's managed to have some ineligible players and not fulfilling fixtures. As a result, they've lost a couple of points, which isn't very helpful considering they've lost every single game so far. So they don't have any points to lose. So they're already owing points. So even if they win a game, they'll still only end up on 1, which is never a good position to be in. New Haven are just below the dotted line and will be looking really, I think, at Ashford Town rather than Sport London, who have got 3 games. Well, actually, no, maybe not. Maybe they're looking at Sport London, not Ashford, because they've got the 3 games over them. So they could potentially pull them back. But the big things going on up at the top. All of the matches that are happening up there, crazy. So Saltine United currently top of the table with 25 points, followed by Brentford with 24. You've then got Dartford, only 2 games in hand over those two, so could go top. They're on 21 points with Sutton on 20, Dorking on 19, Millwall on 18. Now, you would think it's probably somewhere between those 6. And honestly, it has been wild, and I do mean wild, watching how these guys have got on. So just to give you a little bit of context, just making sure I get this right, but the matches have all been happening at the top of the table, and Brentford, who've been doing incredibly well and looked like they were going to waltz the league. Well, Dartford this weekend beat them by 3-1 at home, which was massive news for them. Saltine only drew with Millwall Lionesses 0-0 away from home again. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough for these teams, Brentford also had a loss at the beginning of the month to Saltine United. So it's all happening up there at the top of the table. Dorking Wanderers are going to have a big say in this, as are Millwall Lionesses, because looking at the fixtures over the next couple of weeks, Dartford will have Saltine. Oh no, it's in the League Cup, sorry. Dartford got Barking coming up, which isn't too bad for them, but Brentford have got the Millwall Lionesses, that was the one I was looking at, as well as Dorking Wanderers. So those two are literally going to be huge in terms of who they play. Dartford will then be away to Dorking as well. It's literally the next up to Christmas. It's going to be really interesting to see how this league splits itself and whereabouts they all end up, because I couldn't pick it. You're looking at the top. It could be Saltine, it could be Brentford, it could be Dartford. You would think it's going to be one of those three. They've been the runners and riders over the course of the last couple of seasons. But Dorking, always sort of there or thereabouts. They fell off a little bit at the end of last season. Very interesting to see how they are going to pick themselves up this season. They're still a few points off, but 1 game in hand over Saltine, so potentially could just be 3 points behind, which is, as we said before, just 1 game. And Millwall Lionesses and Sutton, I think, more on the periphery, really having played a game more, at least 1 game more than the runners and riders around them. But again, couldn't be discounted. So I think there's a lot happening in this league, which will be, for me, very, very interesting to see. I think it's also prudent to look again, as we said, at the bottom of the table, because New Haven are a side that, as we said, could try and fight back. But for them to do that, they are going to have some tricky games. Now, they've got Ebbsfleet United in their next game, which is on the 7th of December, as they've got a League Cup match coming up on the 30th. But yes, a big game away to Ebbsfleet United, followed by a home game against Barking. And you do just kind of think that's 2 fixtures that potentially could help them out. A win over Ebbsfleet United puts them just a point behind Sport London. And of course, they're then left in a situation where Barking, again, look at them. They won 5, lost 4. They're very much this and that when it comes to their form. They are not flying one way or the other. So for me, it's absolutely stunning league. I loved watching this league last season and seeing how they were getting about. It's just absolutely blown my mind. And this is, of course, the league that Fulham were in, and we all see how well they're doing in the WNL already this season. So you're going to get some good teams potentially come up from here, and like I say, it could be absolutely any one of them. I'm really, really, really looking forward to the next time we update, which will probably be just before Christmas, because let's be honest, this league is looking like it is going to be an absolute doozy to keep an eye on, and keep an eye on it we shall. So there we go. Right, we're halfway there, as John Bon Jovi would say, but there is more to go. Let's go not west, as the Pet Shop Boys would have us do, but let's go north instead, and we'll go northeast as well, just to wind them up even further. So, Gaza over here in the northeast of the regions, and plenty going on here. Thornaby were sort of runaway leaders. They've dropped off a little bit, and it's that very well-known side, potentially the most well-known side out of that league, who look like they are making a bit of a run for it.
Yeah, as we know, Bradford last season ran eventual winners. Chester Street really close. It came down until the two sides played each other. I think they played each other at the very end of April or beginning of May. So it really went down to the wire. But they just sort of dipped away at the end of the season, and Chester Street got promoted. So they will be up for making sure there's absolutely no mistakes. That it doesn't go into April. That they get this league wrapped up pronto, and they are on track to do that. Pontyland have only played 4 games. They have had a good FA Cup run. They play Altrincham at the weekend. So Tier 5 versus Tier 6 in the FA Cup this coming weekend. So one of those sides guaranteed to make the third round, which is huge for both of those. So I'm not sure they will be too upset with sitting comfortably mid-table, having gone undefeated. If they win those 2 games in hand, they are only 2 points behind Bradford. So that will jump them up to second place. If we look down towards the bottom end of the table, Wallsend, they're still in the FA Cup. So they have a huge FA Cup game this weekend, but yet to pick up a point in the league. And they are out of the relegation zone based solely on goal difference. They, interestingly, sit atop the side who have won a game this season. They've just had all 3 of those points deducted. So we saw issues with this league last season with sides struggling to field teams. It does unfortunately look as though we are going to see some sides really struggling again this year. Whether those issues are persistent in terms of them not fielding sides, or whether there are other problems, I'm not sure. But it does look as though Wallsend and the Sunderland West End are struggling at the moment. But that mid-table does look nice and close, right from Brunsmere there in 9th up to Ossett United in 4th. There's only 6 points between them. So, as well as a whole host of games in hand and so on. But as I said, for so much of last season, there are times where you'd rather have points on the board. So it's looking interesting. If we look at what's to come this weekend, we have, like I mentioned, there are those 2 FA Cup ties. We have Alnwick in the league host Sunderland West End. So imagine Alnwick would get 3 points there. Harrogate host Ossett United. So that looks like that will be a nice little scrap. South Shields hosting Spennymoor. Spennymoor at the moment, of all the sides we've looked at, have the fewest points per game. So they will be looking to get 3 points to try and lift that a little bit against South Shields. Thornaby are actually in County Cup action against North Allerton women. So they will be kind of going for that. And then, like we say, Wallsend and Pontyland in FA Cup action. Cannot remember who Wallsend are playing. And Full Time for this league does that weird thing where if it's not part of this league, it just says NER WFL reporting. So I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head who they're against. But we're starting with that point of the year where with the regional leagues, you've got some people playing in cups, some people playing in leagues, and it all kind of fragmenting a little bit. So this, I think, will all change by the time some of these sides catch up in terms of games played. I think we're going to see a real jigging around of the order. Obviously, if Pontyland win those 2 games that they have in hand, there are 16 points from 6 games, which would put them in a fantastic points per game position. So, they currently are on 2.5 points per game, which would put them top, the best points per game in the country, as opposed to Spennymoor there now, who are on the fewest. So That points per game table as well is one to keep an eye on as the season goes on. It's a tricky one. I'm not sure how much those sides in those leagues are going to be paying attention to that, or whether that's something for us kind of sitting outside of it to be paying attention to. But yeah, it's definitely another interesting league, and hopefully we have another title race go right to the wire. I'm sure though that those at Bradford or those at Pontyland will be hoping not.
Absolutely. Peterborough is who Wallsend will be facing in the FA Cup. So we can thank Google for that. And of course, the Posh FC website for putting it and making it so easily accessible upon said Google search. So well done, Posh.
You would imagine that one of those sides has a good chance of being able to progress to the third round, and one of them a smaller chance. I'll leave it up to people to decide which way around I think that might be.
Yes. Well, let's just say if you were going to be going for an FA Cup third round, and if the FA Cup third round was a Spice Girl, you might think it's Victoria Beckham. I think that's where you're going with that. So there we go. John likes that one. He's like, oh, that's very good, Barry. I'm giggling away over here, which is great news. Right, there we go. So that is the North covered and sorted. Now, we're just going to take a quick look, again, in Stu's absence, at the Southwest, providing I've clicked the wrong one. Yes, I have. There it is. And again, a little bit of a sad league, really, this one, because as we can see here, AFC St Austell had to withdraw from the league, which is literally no fun at all when you are talking about these sorts of things. But it leaves us with 10 teams within the league. And again, this is one of those that John really likes, where you've got half a league that looks like they're fighting for the top and half a league that look like they're just trying to escape the drop. So Sherborne looking very good up there with AEK Bocco, Pooltown, Forest Green and Pucklechurch. So they seem to be the ones who are mostly fighting for the title. But again, do not discount Forest Green there with their 12 points and only 4 games played. The only side, apart from Torquay, who have not lost a game. That's right, Torquay in 7th. They've only played 3 games. They're unbeaten. They're still sat in 7th. But they have got that 4 games in hand. And, of course, they win it. They would go top of the table. So, really big there, unless, of course, Forest Green win their 3, in which case they would have to sit second. Gloucester City are even stuck there at the moment with some games in hand. Just behind the dotted line. But, of course, their 3 wins, should they get them, would only be enough to lift them into the mid-table spots for now. But I think at the minute, they'd be quite happy just to get 1 or 2 wins, let alone anything else. Some of the recent results that we have seen this weekend: Pucklechurch beating Frampton Rangers, and that was it, because everything else was postponed, because the weather has been absolutely mardy as of late. But if they were to be able to play this weekend, then that would be marvellous. And we have got Forest Green Rovers against AEK Bocco, which is, again, I think, quite a good match up there at the top. Frampton Rangers with Bishop's Lydiard, Gloucester City against Saltash, and Poole against Torquay, Pucklechurch against Sherborne. So some big matches that you could look at there. And the Pucklechurch against Sherborne one, I think, is really quite a big one there. But I think all of this looks very much reliant on how Forest Green and Torquay United get on after a good start. Anything that you would like to add, either of you, having looked at this little league just yet?
Nothing to add other than AEK Bocco still being one of my favourite named sides in this tier of football, and Pucklechurch Sports probably run them close for that. So yeah, I would love to see another wonderfully named side kind of pushing up for promotion. But like I say, a long way to go. It's super close, isn't it, at that top? You imagine Forest Green have got that on a lock with those 3 games in hand. They can afford they can afford a slip up now. Not that they will want to; they'll want to keep the foot on the gas and go for it. But at the moment, it's a real scrap. And there's like we say, there's still that second place to play for, and that gives everything that extra sort of dash of spice.
No, absolutely. I think Frampton as well are up there with names. It's brilliant. But every time I see AEK Bocco, I feel like it's a different league. It doesn't feel like it's in the southwest. It feels like it's the southwest of, I don't know, Mexico or Brazil or something. It's just like they've just sort of popped up out of nowhere, and I love it. I think it's really, really cool. So there we go. Right, that is the southwest. So this time we are going to go west even further, but up a bit as well, for the wonderful West Midlands. And it's when you get to the West Midlands that if you did have a bingo card for John Foster, you'd probably get a couple of them on this one here. I would say, I don't think I'm wrong in saying, of your two leagues, it's your favourite one of the two, John.
It's definitely up there. I do like Tier 4 Midlands, but this is exciting because obviously this is where I live, in this area. So I know a little bit more about the individual teams and the journeys that they've had over recent seasons as a club or as managers or as players. And because of that, it gets more exciting because there's storylines between all of these teams. So yeah, I'll just touch on this a little bit, but the fact that those four teams that are up there, they've all got a story to tell. Honestly, all four of those teams will be wanting to win this league. And it sounds silly, but when you look at some teams in, say, Tier 4, they could be the top four and not necessarily want to get promoted because the funding, the finances, they know that it could also almost cripple the club if they end up getting promoted. Whereas this league, they actually want to get promoted. Having that National League badge would go so far in regards to signing players in the area. Because they want to be in the National League, don't they? The players want to play in the National League. So, a very exciting league. So yeah, just touching on it then. So just a bit of a recap in regards to who got promoted in this league and who got all relegated into the league. So it was Reddish Borough and Hensford who got promoted into this league. So yeah, both doing well. I'll go into a bit of detail on that shortly. And Solihull Moors got relegated into it from Tier 4 Midlands last season. Lots of teams there who people might have thought, okay, I fancy this team, I fancy that team, and that they've all got valid reasons. I fancied Light Town, still do potentially. We'll go through that shortly as well. But yeah, since the last time we spoke, there were actually three teams that was on 0 points last time we spoke. It was Port Vale, League Town, and Alvechurch. Port Vale and League Town, both have now gained 2 wins since then, but Alvechurch is still rock bottom, played 7 with 0 points, and they've got League Town and Shifnal up next. Solihull Moors, looking a very mid-table team, not just because of where they are in there, but the situation at the club looks a little bit fragile throughout the summer. They've dropped points 3 times in 5 games. So for a newly relegated side who's got a big badge, let's be honest, Solihull Moors is probably a team that you guys have heard of, but you may not have heard of all of those teams. You'd probably expect them to be pushing a little bit further ahead. And then Shifnal, just like last season, top of the league this time last year. Around about the Christmas period, they were really pushing. They pushed Kiddie Harriers last season, along with Light Town, but they just faded off last season. It'll be interesting to see if they fade off again, or have they learned from what their errors were last year. Good team, a very solid playing team as well. Still undefeated after that late equaliser last week against Light Town. It was 2-2. And then Light Town, I believe, got what they thought was the winner after about 91 minutes. And then Shifnal equalised about 96 minutes in. So Shifnal are still unbeaten there. And as for Light Town, also haven't lost a game yet, but they have got 3 draws in 6 games, which is out of character for Light Town. I think a lot of people did fancy Light Town this season. They fancied them last season. They fancied them the season before. But a lot of people are saying how competitive this league is, and it really is. You can see that. I haven't even mentioned Shrewsbury, great cup team last year, very inconsistent in the league, but they're on 14 points with a game in hand. So Shrewsbury will be looking like they fancy their chances. And then finally, Reddish Borough, obviously living up to expectations in regards to what people in the area are saying. Although I don't believe that they're in any rush to get promoted. They got promoted last season. Do they want to go again and try and get promoted again? I'm sure they're going for it, absolutely. I do speak to the manager and the assistant manager there. I've known them for quite a few years, and yeah, I think that deep down that they want to just do the best that they can, do the best that they can do, and if it takes them to the top of the league, then great. But yeah, I think with it being a smaller club, they might not want to necessarily see second or third place as a bad thing. You know, there's no rush for them. That it's the manager's local team. You know, he lives in Redditch, so I'd like to think that he's in no rush to get promoted. They've signed a lot of youngsters who are friends and who are from the area, so I don't think that they're looking at being in any rush. And a lot of those are quality players. So if they wanted to play in Tier 4, they could have already played in Tier 4. So I think what A. Clements has done there is build a team for the future. And if they win it this season, then great. If not, I don't think it's the end of the world for them. But yeah, great club, Reddish Borough, a club that I'm learning a lot about this season. So yeah, it's very, very fun in games, and it'll be interesting to see where we are at the midway point, probably the next time that we do this show.
I'd like to think it'd be the midway point by the time we do the next show, John, but I'm not being funny. The Midlands are very siesta-esque when it comes to sorting out these matches, so we might not get to midway on this one until, I don't know, August. The rate you seem to be going at, but we shall see if that is the case. But absolutely, looking at where we are there, it's tight up the top. Right, that leaves us with one league left to go, and that is the Eastern region of the 8 that we have got. And, well, what to say about this league? This league was absolutely mad. If you were to have looked at it last week, just before the weekend's fixtures, there was 6 points separating Royston Town from Bowers and Pitsea in 10th. It was absolutely crazy. Bowers, if they had drawn a game, would have gone, I think, to 6th potentially. So it was absolutely mad. That the whole league is just looking upside down and topsy-turvy, and people are jumping up and down, moving around. It's honestly, it's like watching gnats in a jar jumping around, and it's been a little bit crazy. But we can say at the moment, Enfield and Hutton are really not looking like they are going to make it, and that's not a slight on them. But Hutton are 10 points off with just the 12 games left to go. It's not looking promising for them. Enfield, they're picking up the occasional points, and they might well still reel in some of the fishes above them, but they played a game more than the others. It's that goal difference that worries me. Negative 35, they're shipping a lot of goals. And if you continue to do that, then you are opening yourself up big time for the negativity and the consequences, I suppose, that comes from that. Now, looking at the top of the table, Stevenage, well, it's lovely to watch. We are doing incredibly well up the top of this division at the moment. And, you know, every week we are seeing more results and we are seeing better performances. And as a result, Royston are keeping themselves as close as they possibly can to Stevenage, winning most of their games. As you can see, they've sort of got over their little blips of draws and are now starting to rack up some wins as well, doing incredibly well in the FA Cup as well. So with that in mind, 3 points behind for them isn't too bad when you consider they have got to play Stevenage in an away game. But at the moment, the goal difference for Borough is keeping them top of the table. But everywhere below that, and this is where it's better for Stevenage at the moment, is the fact that they've got 3 games in hand over Dissendale, and they're already 6 points clear of them. They've got a game in hand over Wroxham, they're already 6 points clear of them, and games in hand over Atletico and Harpenden, and again are already 10 and 11 points clear of them. So really, It looks like it's between Stevenage and Royston at the moment, but if you were to watch this last season, you'd have seen it was between Royston and Luton at that time, and it ended up being Luton that won it, and Stevenage finishing second with Royston dropping into third. So still anything can happen as this league has reached its midway point. And as I said, there are lots of things that have been happening and still coming up. Loads of cup games, FA Cup and League Cup and County Cups have been taking place over the course of the last couple of weeks. Looking at this weekend, it all kicked off. Like I say, Stevenage were away to Bowes and Pitsea, beat them 5-1. Royston were at home to Dussindale. That was second versus third. Royston beat them 4-0. And Wroxham beat Watford Ladies Development 5-0. So that's what I mean. It's so tight that you can't look at it and go, oh, it's second against eighth, and think to yourself, well, that should be an easy win for second. It's literally a case that just literally scratching and clawing and taking points off of each other there. The previous week, Royston had played Bowers and they beat them 3-1. So it's, like I say, really, really, really entertaining watching this league at the moment. Now, this weekend, there is mainly cup fixtures taking place. There are a few league games that will be happening. Stevenage have got the week off, but Dussindale will be facing Hutton as Hutton try their hardest to get themselves out of that bottom two. But Haringey, down towards the bottom at the moment, will be facing Atletico London, also known as London Seaward, back in the day. Harpenden have got St Albans, and Watford Ladies will face Enfield Town. So not much going to be happening with the top of the table, but there will be some opportunities for people to claw some of that difference back. There will be some FA Cup matches happening. Royston are away to Bridgewater United, which I think is going to be a fascinating tie. It's a big distance for Royston to have to travel. Not something they're necessarily used to doing on a Sunday, but hopefully they managed to club together and got themselves a coach and will have the opportunity to go over there and represent the league and do incredibly well. York City will also have to face Wroxham, which again I think it's a huge trip for Wroxham. But again, it's one of those where you just never know. If they've got themselves a nice little coach, it'll be a wonderful away day and hopefully something that lives long in the memory. While Bowers won't need a coach, they are at home to Sutton United, who obviously we have already spoken about in the London and the South East. So both of those teams sort of in similar sort of positions, point-wise and performance-wise. So it's very feasible that either side, could win that. The following week is going to be League Cup action. So again, not much happening within the league. So the League Cup, the League Plate will take place. So we're not going to see any more league action until the 7th of December. And then there's 2 weeks that there will be football played, the 7th and the 14th. And at that point, we will close for Christmas. So be very interesting to see how that goes. Stevenage will be facing Dussindale and Haringey. Royston will be away to Harpenden Town, and they shall also be facing Hutton FC. So some big games for those top two teams. You would imagine by the time we come back here, I should imagine it will still be a 3-point gap. You would put your money on both of those teams to have won both of those games, but you just never know. It's that sort of league. So there we go. Well then, gang, 48 minutes and 41 seconds, and we have nailed 8 leagues. And by this time 2 weeks ago, I think we were probably only just about on league number 4, which was quite something. So we've done incredibly well, incredibly concise, guys and gals. Well done. Very, very impressed. So it really leads me to what I think will be my final little generic question. But obviously, Gareth, you're with Withenshaw, who are doing incredibly well at the moment in the WNL, and John, like, you're just like Voldemort. You've got so many pieces of your soul in so many clubs that they would literally have to end football in order to kill you off. But you like that one, didn't you, Gareth? But I reckon there's probably 7 as well. I reckon there's about 7 clubs that John follows.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so there we are. But most of the sides that you have supported or worked with are WNL sides. I'm just kind of intrigued as to your thoughts on the regional leagues, because again we drag you onto these shows every other week to try and have a chat about the tier 5, and it is good that we're looking and trying to see what these leagues have got to offer. But what's been your big takeaway? Because we're over a year into doing this now, and we've been looking at tier 5s, and we're on episode 46, I think, or 47. That we're 46. It says out there that we have done. It's a lot of episodes. About 20 of them are going to have been tier 5 episodes. So what have you sort of taken away from these shows and tier 5?
I think for myself, I think the importance of a manager who's got a good reputation. I think at this level, there's not too many teams that's got a massive amount of backing financially, not enough to actually sway players. This is just talking about my local area. I don't think players would potentially go from tier 3 or tier 4 to tier 5 for the money. They'll go for the people. So I look at tier 5 and I think of teams that are based on friendships, families, where someone that you played with or who you played for before in the past. So I think a lot of it's based on happiness. I don't think anyone should be at a tier 5 team and be unhappy, because I think there's enough tier 5 teams in the area that you'll know someone that you can just jump ship. And I think you see that a lot in the Midlands. Players do jump ship quite easily these days. So I think for me, it's just about playing with a smile on your face and with who you want to play with.
Kaz?
Yeah, I think that it's just kind of trying to highlight on how much quality there is down at this level, how competitive and how good the leagues are. Yes, it also highlights that there are some issues still when you look around, and there is that kind of gap between the top and the bottom with teams on no points, teams getting deductions. But there's real good quality competition there. And I think that's the main thing to take away, is that the pyramid is good, and that we need to kind of protect it and develop it to the point where it's not necessarily ever going to be as deep, or as ever's a strong word, but for a significant period of time, it's probably not going to be as deep or as strong all the way down that the men's pyramid is, or with the money. But it can definitely feed its. These leagues are competitive, and the people that are in them are good footballers.
Yeah, no, it's very hard to disagree with any of that. And for me this season, watching what's been going on in the Eastern region, it's been very interesting seeing some of these players who are, as you said, John, players that have played at higher levels, and seeing them drop into tier 5. Sarah Wiltshire for Stevenage, 26 goals already out of 15 games. Brooke Haylock over at Atletico, and Evie Clark at Bowers and Pitsea, players that have dropped down from higher levels, having played at a very high level, and seeing them drop into tier 5 has been quite something. And it just goes to show that things are changing. Maybe not going at the speed of light, but it is definitely changing. So there we go. I would just like to finish today's show just by pointing out that the owner of all four channels is currently in Leeds, which is such a wonderful place. And whilst he is there for the Football Content Awards, and it's lovely to have him there. We have no idea what's going on. They've literally only just kicked off. 8:45, I think, was the first lot of awards to be done. There are some. They're currently on young content creators. That's the word I was trying to get out of my mouth there. And brilliant. It's nice to see Harry Scarf already on there. He's someone who puts a lot of effort into what he's doing. So well done there to Harry. But there's lots of awards at the moment happening. And I just wanted to say a big thank you once again to people who got this channel nominated in the first place. As we said, we weren't too worried about whether you voted for us or not, but it's just nice to be there. And it was a pleasure to have had that. So thank you very much once again. John, Gaza, lovely to have you back. Really, really enjoyed that. we'll be back hopefully next week. And what we'll be looking at, who knows, probably the FA Cup, if I'm honest with you. We'll be having a little look to see, because we get to that point. Do you remember last year? Start getting to the point where all of our lower league teams start dropping out, and you're like, who cares about the FA Cup? So we're hitting that point. So we'll probably get into that bit of the FA Cup and then see where we end up. But yes, pleasure to have you all. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next week. Night all.